I bring greetings from that little-known region, the rest of the world, in congratulating America on getting rid of the worst president in living memory. We too in Britain have got rid of his comrade in arms, comrade in faith, Tony Blair. You might wonder what's happened to Tony Blair since he disappeared. Well, he has founded the Tony Blair Faith Foundation. He's now showing up in his true colors, which explains his great affinity for George W. Bush. They share a Christian faith, and Tony Blair now thinks that faith is the key to the future of the world, civilization, and world peace. A document has fallen into my hands, which is a letter from the chief fundraiser of Tony Blair's new foundation, and I thought I would begin by, this is going to be a kind of four-part talk. Okay, this is the letter from the chief fundraiser of Tony Blair's foundation, which has unexpectedly fallen into my hands. Dear person of faith, basically, I should explain, Tony Blair was always famous for loving, with it, trendy jargon. He loves using words like cool and office speak like thinking out of the box and phrases, you know the kind of thing. Dear person of faith, basically, I write as fundraiser for the wonderful new Tony Blair Foundation, whose aim is to promote respect and understanding about the world's major religions and show how faith is a powerful force for good in the modern world. I would like to touch base with you on 6 key points from the recent New Statesman piece by Tony, as he likes to be called by everybody, of all faiths, or indeed of none, for that's how tuned in he is. My faith has always been an important part of my politics. Yes, indeed, although Tony modestly kept stum about it when he was Prime Minister. As he said, to shout his faith from the rooftops might have been interpreted as claiming moral superiority over those with no faith, and therefore no morals, of course. Also, some might have objected to their leader taking advice from voices only he could hear. But hey, reality is so last year compared with private revelation, isn't it? What else, other than shared faith, could have brought Tony together with his friend and comrade in arms, George, mission accomplished Bush, in their life-saving and humanitarian intervention in Iraq? Admittedly, there are 1 or 2 problems remaining to be ironed out there, but all the more reason for people of different faiths, Christian and Muslim, Sunni and Shia, to join together in meaningful dialogue to seek common ground, just as Catholics and Protestants have done so heartwarmingly throughout European history. It is these great benefits of faith that the Tony Blair Foundation seeks to promote. We are focusing on 5 main projects initially, working with 6 partners in the 6 main faiths. Yes, I know, it's a pity we had to limit ourselves to 6. But we do have boundless respect for other faiths, all of which in their colourful variety enrich human lives. In a very real sense, we have much to learn from Zoroastrianism and Jainism, and from Mormonism, though Sherry says we need to go easy on the polygamy and the sacred underpants. Then again, we mustn't forget the ancient and rich Olympian and Norse traditions. Although our modern blue skies thinking out of the box has pushed the envelope on shock and awe tactics and put Zeus's thunderbolts and Thor's hammer in the shade. We hope in phase 2 of our 5-year plan to embrace Scientology and Druidic mistletoe worship, which, in a very real sense, have something to teach us all. In phase 3, our firm commitment to diversity will lead us to source new networking partnership opportunities with the many hundreds of African tribal religions. Sacrificing goats may present problems with the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, but we hope to persuade them to adjust their priorities to take proper account of religious sensibilities. We are working across religious divides towards a common goal, ending the scandal of deaths from malaria. Plus, of course, we mustn't forget the countless deaths from AIDS. This is where we can learn from the Pope's inspiring vision, expounded recently on his visit to Africa. Drawing on his reserves of scientific and medical knowledge, informed and deepened by the values that only faith can bring, His Holiness explained that the scourge of AIDS is made worse, not better, by condoms. His advocacy of abstinence may have dismayed some medical experts, and the same goes for his deeply and sincerely held opposition to stem cell research. But surely to goodness we must find room for a diverse range of opinions. All opinions, after all, are equally valid, and there are many ways of knowing, spiritual as well as factual. That, at the end of the day, is what the Tony Blair Foundation is all about. We have established Face to Faith, an interfaith schools program to counter intolerance and extremism. The great thing is to foster diversity, as Tony himself said in 2002, when challenged by a rather intolerant member of Parliament about a school in Gateshead in the north of England, teaching children that the world is only 6,000 years old. Of course, you may think, as Tony himself happens to, that the true age of the world is 4.6 billion years. But excuse me, in this multicultural world, we must find room to tolerate and indeed actively foster all opinions. The more diverse, the better. We are looking to set up video conferencing dialogues to brainstorm our differences. By the way, that Gateshead school ticked lots of boxes when it came to exam results, which just goes to show. Children of one faith and culture will have the chance to interact with children of another, getting a real sense of each other's lived experience. Cool. And thanks to Tony's policy of putting as many children as possible in faith schools where they can't befriend kids from other backgrounds, the need for this interaction and mutual understanding has never been so strong. You see how it all hangs together? Sheer genius. So strongly do we support the principle that children should be sent to schools that will identify them with their parents' beliefs, we think there is a real opportunity here to broaden it out. In phase 2, we look to facilitate separate schools for postmodernist children, Leavisite children, and Saussurian structuralist children. And in phase 3, we shall roll out yet more separate schools for Keynesian children, monetarist children, and even neo-Marxist children. Finally, we are working with the Coexist Foundation and Cambridge University to develop the concept of Abraham House. I always think it's so important to coexist, don't you, with our brothers and sisters of the other Abrahamic faiths. Of course, we have our differences. I mean, who doesn't, basically? But we must all learn mutual respect. For example, we need to understand and sympathize with the deep hurt and offense that a man can feel if we insult his traditional beliefs by trying to stop him beating his wife, or setting fire to his daughter, or cutting off her clitoris. And please don't let's hear any racist or Islamophobic objections to these important expressions of faith. We shall support the introduction of Sharia courts, but on a strictly voluntary basis, only for those whose husbands and fathers freely choose it. The Tony Blair Foundation will work to leverage mutual respect and understanding between seemingly incompatible faith traditions. After all, despite our differences, we do have one important thing in common. All of us in the faith communities hold firm beliefs in the total absence of evidence, which leaves us free to believe anything we like. So at the very least, we can be united in claiming a privileged role for all these private beliefs in the formulation of public policy. I hope this letter will have shown you some of the reasons why you might consider supporting Tony's foundation. Because, hey, let's face it, a world without religion doesn't have a prayer. With so many of the world's problems caused by religion, what better solution could there possibly be than to promote yet more of it? Yours, in a very real sense, sincerely.